So it's time for some new tyres. Let's have a little look at what the tyre codes and numbers actually mean. Hello, welcome back to the shed. It seems like it's been forever since I've done a video, when in fact it's probably only been about 2, maybe 3 weeks now since my last video where I was doing some work on the XJ600 Scrambler. Just to update you on that, for those of you that are interested, that do follow that, I am currently waiting for or bidding on a tank. The reason it's come to a bit of a hold is because I want to get the right shaped tank for that frame, and it's taken ages just searching. There are obviously loads of options out there, but I wanted one that would suit the frame and also suit the style that I'm going for. So I'm currently looking at one on eBay. I don't know how many of you have heard of a Bombardier 250cc. It was a bike that was used by the British military, that Canadian manufactured actually in the war. The tank is a really nice shape, and I think it'll suit the XJ. So hopefully I'll get that and win that bid on eBay, and then we can get it up and running again with that project. So the reason for this video is just based around the tyres on my CBR, on my Fireblade. I've come round to replace them now and put new ones on, and it just occurred to me when I was buying the tyres that I was reading up on the speed ratings and the load ratings of the tyres, and I wasn't sure how many people were interested in that. And also the codes on the side of the tyre, what do they mean? You know, what is their relevance to you as a rider and also as a buyer of the tyres? So that's what this video is about. So stay tuned and we'll have a look. Okay, so I have purchased some Pirelli Diablo Rosso 2s. I did a bit of research, found those are the ones that were the best really for me. But whilst buying them, as I said, it occurred to me that not everybody might be too familiar with the coding systems used on the tyres, but more than that, as I said, the speed and the load references, and just the importance of what those references mean on the tyres. So the various markings and numbers on the motorcycle tyre sidewall, they can be quite confusing initially, and then obviously this video will just explain what those motorcycle tyre markings mean, along with the weight and the speed tables, that you can sort of compare the tyre markings on your motorcycle, on your tyres, maybe to those in this video. So for my bike, I have the 190 by 50 ZR 17 MC 73W TL. All a lot of codes, a lot of numbers, a lot of letters. So we'll just go through those now and describe what they actually mean. So the first is the tyre width. So this number basically denotes the width of the tyre in millimeters, from the sidewall to the sidewall. So for my bike, for example, it's 190 millimeters. The exact width may vary slightly due to the manufacturing and sort of tuning characteristics of the tyre. It's about, I think, plus or minus 4%. So the second number after that is the profile. Now this is the number, this number is the tyre height, and it's calculated as a percentage of the tyre width. So in this example, on my tyre, the tyre profile height is 50% of the tyre width. So my tyre width is 190 millimeters, so 50% of that is 95 millimeters. So from the center to the top of the tread is 95. So my tyre, 190 by 50. If we look at my tyre from the side, the distance from this wall to this wall, from there to there, is 190. And then this here means that my profile height say from my tread to my rim. Excuse this, writing's a bit messy. It's 50% and 90. So it's 95 millimeters. And that's how it works. The next is the speed and construction, which is basically the speed rating of the tyre. And that's represented on mine by the letters ZR, and which basically means it's rated above 149 miles an hour. Other speed ratings can be found in the table that I'll put up now. Basically the R denotes that the tyre is of radial type construction. The other type of tyre construction is cross ply, and if that was the case, the markings on the tyre, the R would be replaced with a hyphen, which would indicate the cross ply manufacturing technique. So the next thing on there will be the rim size. So on my tyres, for example, I'm only doing the back tyre. The number 17 relates to the size of my rim, or the rim on the bike. So in this instance, it's 17 inches. So that's pretty self-explanatory. The next marking on mine is MC, and that simply means that the tyre is intended to use on a motorcycle. So MC, obviously motorcycle. The next is the load and the speed index. So in this example, on mine, the number 73 informs us that the tyre, we have to look it up on a table, the tyre has a maximum rating of 365 kilograms at maximum pressure. So that's the weight limit. The W informs us that the tyre has a speed of 168 miles an hour, or 270 kilometers an hour. The top speed is always related to the slowest tyre on your motorcycle. And obviously if you exceed that, the disclaimer on the tyres is that you do risk tyre failure. Always replace a tyre with the same speed ratings so that you sort of don't reduce the capability of your machine. And obviously when you look at the chart, you'll be able to tell from the chart what the speed ratings are and what's best suitable for your bike. And all of the applicable load and speed ratings are in the tables. So it's quite easy to understand. The next thing is like an arrow, and an arrow is the direction of rotation. Obviously, if the tyre is placed on the wrong way round, your motorcycle's going to fail the MOT and not perform to its maximum potential. The other thing that people get caught out on when buying tyres on sort of off eBay and stuff like that is tyre age. If you're buying a second-hand tyre or used tyre, since the year 2000, the production date of all tyres can be found on the sidewall. You can see the DOT, the Department of Transport code, and located at the end of that are 4 digits. So, for example, 0917, the first 2 digits represent the week the tyre was manufactured, and the last 2 digits represent the year. So, in this example, it would be, 0917 would be the tyre was made on the 9th week of the year 2017. So when we talk about tyre speed ratings, the tyre speed rating, so that's basically the maximum speed tyres can safely carry a load. Okay, so that's the original weight of your vehicle plus whatever's on it. And that's for a sustained amount of time in ideal conditions. So the rating is moulded on the tyre sidewall, and that rating, as I've just explained, is signified by a letter or two, usually after the load index number. So together, the load index and the speed rating form the service description of that tyre, and each letter in the speed rating represents a maximum speed based on the chart that I showed you before. So that's really, really important. I think basically the main things to know are that with the speed and the load is generally the higher in the alphabet a tyre is rated, the better it will manage heat and faster speeds. But there is an exception for the H rating on a tyre, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. So your actual speed capacity may be less than a tyre's rating. The rating indicates a new tyre's performance, basically in a tightly controlled lab, tightly controlled lab settings, not on the open road. So obviously the figures were given. All of those figures are under controlled laboratory conditions in ideal situations. So you haven't got to worry about things like tyre condition, inflation level, extra weight, the difference in road surfaces, the weather. These are all everyday limits that play into a tyre's maximum safe speed. So it's really important that you sort of take that into account. If you have tyres with different speed ratings, the limit of the lowest rated tyre obviously is the fastest that you can or you should ride. And always stay within your tyre's capability. So for tyres that have so for these tyres that I've bought, and for tyres having a maximum speed capability above 149 miles an hour, a ZR may appear obviously in the size designation. So above 186 miles an hour, a ZR must appear in the size designation, including I think a Y speed symbol in brackets as well. So with regard, going back to the H rating, the H rating is actually out of place in the table, but that's not a typo. Basically, when the tyre speed ratings were first developed in Europe in the 1960s, there were only 3 ratings then. There was an S, there was a H, and there was a V. And as tyre technology developed and new speed classes were introduced, the ratings table sort of expanded to include the full alphabet, which is what it does now. But the letter H just kept its original speed rating of 130 miles an hour. So it sort of sits later on in the chart, even though it's not actually in alphabetical order. So Z-rated tyres will sometimes have the letters ZR embedded, such as what are on mine there, within the tyre size information, instead of in the service description of the tyre. Now, so that's sort of the speed. That's all to do with the speed ratings and how those work. But the load index is a numerical code rating system, and that corresponds to the maximum weight that a tyre can support at the speed indicated by its speed rating, and again under specific conditions detailed by obviously the manufacturers, and they make that quite clear when purchasing the tyres. So the load index number can be again located on the sidewall of your tyre, as I've got there. So how are the speed ratings determined? Well, tyre manufacturers basically determine a tyre's capacity for heat and speed, and they use a testing machine. And usually the testing, it's done to meet the ECE, European Commission for Europe, or something like that, ECE standards. So the scale is based on kilometres per hour. A more rigorous test is also sometimes done to meet the SAE standards. I think that's automotive engineer standards. So for the ECE test, the tyre is properly inflated, and it's mounted on a wheel that's basically attached to a testing machine in a room that's heated to around 77 degrees Fahrenheit, I think. And basically the tyre is pressed against a metal drum with enough pressure to simulate a realistic sort of load, under pressure. So basically they start at a slow speed, 40 kilometres an hour. I think they start at a speed that's 40 kilometres an hour lower than the proposed rating level. and then basically the tyre is spun, and it's spun in 10-minute increments, and then just higher and higher speeds until it reaches basically the target speed. And then when it reaches its target speed, the tyre spins for 10 minutes at that speed. And then basically the tyre is removed from the machine, and they inspect it visually, obviously, for any sort of failures like separation of tread components, which could separate under that motion. And if it's intact, obviously it passes the speed rating. So, you know, it's rigorous testing, but sometimes what they call an SUS test, a step-up speed test, will be added basically after the tyre performs at the target speed rating. And again, the speed is increased basically until the tyre fails. So that brings into sort of the safety factor as well when they put the limits on the tyres. If the tyre is being tested at the SAE standard, it's required to run, I think, for an hour. So it's required to run at an hour at its target speed in a room that's heated to, I think, around 100 degrees Fahrenheit, but somewhere around that anyway. So that's like kind of what the speed and the weight index is all about, and how the testing works. But, you know, how much does it matter for you and your riding and you know, the tread life of your, you know, tyre? But basically tyres with higher speed ratings offer handling benefits that, you know, thrill some riders, and but there are trade-offs. You know, they're usually made with softer rubber compounds and stiffer construction, and, you know, they do offer better cornering, better stopping power, but better steering response. But, you know, you could, I suppose, expect a little less ride comfort, lower performance in colder conditions, and certainly shorter tread life, as I've just found out with these Diablos. But you know, consumer reports are out there. They'll tell you all about the rating on the tyres and how long they've lasted. And there's plenty of people out there that have had tyres last 5,000 miles on their soft compounds. But, you know, most riders will stay below the speed limitations of the H-rated tyres. If you're a spirited rider with high performance bike, you know, you may be happier with the ZR range. But I think, you know, just things to take away really from this are, you know, tyre speed ratings. It's not like a speed limit sort of posted on a road sign, you know. It's based on lab simulations. It doesn't account for real life factors that really determine the true life and the true tyre capability. You know, are your tyres fully inflated? What are the road conditions like that you ride on? What's the temperature of the road like? Is there water on the road? What's your braking system like on your bike? What's the age of the tyre and state of your tread? Have you got any flat spots on your tyre? I mean, the list goes on. So don't use the speed rating as a guideline for the top speed that you can ride. Okay, so just an important notice really that the information that obviously I provide in this video is sort of derived from, you know, lots of different sources and, you know, that are deemed reasonably reliable. So the operation of your vehicle is entirely up to you, and the replacement of your tyres safely is up to you as well. So look, I hope that brings a little bit of information your way. You may have known all about it, you may not have, but whatever happens, ride safe. I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.